It was just another day at the hospital where I worked as a nurse. The corridors were with the usual sounds of carts rolling. But that day, something was off. Room 217's patient, Mr. Jacobs, had been admitted for a routine surgery, but his recovery was anything but ordinary. He'd wake up in cold sweats, screaming about someone standing over his bed, whispering his name. We assumed it was just the medication causing him to have nightmares. But then, other patients started reporting the same figure, a tall man in a dark coat, standing silently in their rooms at night. Security found no evidence of an intruder, and the staff began to talk about a hospital legend, a former doctor who roamed the halls. I didn't believe in such tales. That is until I saw the figure myself, standing at the end of the hallway, then disappearing into thin air. The next day, Mr. Jacobs was found unresponsive. His heart had stopped with no apparent cause. The room was ice cold when we entered, and on the window was a single word in the frost from inside the room, which was leave. From that day on, the sightings grew more frequent. Patients transferred, staff quit, and some of us decided to stay. The hospital tried to cover it up, but the truth was clear: we were not alone, and whatever walked those halls didn't want us there. I left soon after, but the story of room 217 spread far and wide. They say the hospital is closed now. The closure of the hospital was just the beginning. I found a new job at a clinic downtown, trying to leave the past behind. But one day, a patient came in for a routine checkup, and I froze. He was the spitting image of Mr. Jacobs, the man from room 217. He must have seen the color drain from my face, because he asked if I was all right. I managed a nod, but my hands were shaky. I excused myself and watched from a distance as he left the clinic. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were on me. I started noticing a car that seemed to be everywhere I went. At the grocery store, parked across the street from my apartment, even at the clinic. The same model, the same dark, tinted windows. I reported it to the police, but they said without a license plate or a better description, there was little they could do. Then, the phone calls began. A soft, creepy voice, always asking for someone named Evelyn. I told them they had the wrong number, but the calls continued. One night, the voice changed its tune. "I know you're not Evelyn," it said, "but you'll do." I changed my number the next day, but the calls found their way to me again. This time, the voice was silent, just the sound of breathing on the other end. I hired a private investigator, desperate for answers. What he found was more disturbing than I could have imagined. The man from the clinic, the one who looked like Mr. Jacobs, he didn't exist. No records, no ID, nothing. And the car. It was registered to a woman who had been declared missing 3 years ago. The pieces were falling into place, but the picture they formed was one of horror. I was being stalked by someone who not only knew my past but seemed to be a ghost themselves. The climax of this nightmare came one evening when I returned home to find my apartment door unlocked. Inside, everything seemed normal until I reached my bedroom. There on my bed was a hospital gown, neatly folded, with a note on top. "Room 217 is waiting," it read. My heart raced, and I knew I had to leave. I packed a bag and disappeared that night, leaving everything behind. I've been on the move ever since, never staying in one place for too long. The fear that room 217's ghost or whoever, whatever it is, might find me is a constant issue. But I've learned to live with it, always vigilant, always ready to run.